The bitterness of the shoemakers' struggle may be gauged by the extreme radicalism of many of their members throughout the post war years. The ladies' men clung on to their position in the boom years 1820 to 1825, but the recession of 1826 at once exposed their weakness. The organized men were surrounded by scores of small dishonorable workshops where shoes were made up by snobs or translators at 8d or 1s a pair. In the autumn of 1826, several of their members were tried for riot and assault arising from a strike extending over 7 or more weeks. A unionist is alleged to have told a scab that he ought to have his liver cut out for working under price. But the boot and shoe workers, notwithstanding, maintained some national organization, and in the great union wave of 1832-34, the Northamptonshire and Staffordshire outworkers came into the same struggle for equalization. It was only the destruction of general unionism in 1834 which finally deprived them of artisan status. The tailors maintained their artisan status rather longer. We can take their union as a model of the quasi legal trades union of the artisan. Place regarded the combination among the tailors as by far the most perfect of any, but he had, of course, exceptional opportunity to discover their secrets. In 1818, Francis Place published the fullest account which we have of their operation. By effective combination, the London tailors had succeeded in pressing up their wages throughout the war, although probably lagging slightly behind the advance in the cost of living. The figures ran in places average 1795 25 shillings, 1801 27 shillings, 1807 30 shillings, 1810 33 shillings, 1813 36 shillings, which with its advance the resistance of the masters became firmer. Not a single shilling was obtained at any one of these periods but by compulsion. At the many houses of call of the aristocratic Flint tailors books of the members' names were kept, and the masters used the houses virtually as employment agencies. Advertisements such as these in the papers, men competent to superintend any works in the building line, may be had by applying at the following houses: Journeymen Carpenters, advertising in Trades newspaper, 17 July 1825. No man is allowed to ask for employment. The masters must apply to the union. The work was allocated by rota, and the union disciplined unworkmanlike men. The tailors had a dual subscription, the larger contribution being reserved for benefits, the smaller for the needs of the union itself. A 12-hour day was enforced, except in times of full employment. There were levies for unemployed members, and special levies might be made in preparation for a strike, as to which the members asked no questions, even if the purpose was not explained. The actual leadership of the Union was carefully shielded from prosecution under the Combination Acts. Each house of call had a deputy, chosen by a kind of tacit consent, frequently without its being known to a very large majority who is chosen. The deputies form a committee, and they again choose in a somewhat similar way a very small committee, in whom, on very particular occasions, all power resides. No law could put it down. Place wrote. Nothing but want of confidence among the men themselves could prevent it. And in fact, the Knights of the Needle look extremely strong, at least until the recession of 1826. Their organization could be fairly described as all but a military system. But, concealed within Place's own account, there was a premonition of weakness. They are divided into two classes called flints and dungs. The flints have upwards of 30 houses of coal, and the dungs about 9 or 10. The flints work by day, the dungs by day or peace. Great animosity formerly existed between them, the Dungs generally working for less wages, but of late years there has not been much difference in the wages, and at some of the latest strikes both parties have usually made common cause. This may be seen as an impressive attempt to keep the dishonorable trade in some organizational association with the status conscious flints. In 1824, Place estimated a proportion of 1 dung to 3 flints, but the dungs work a great many hours and their families assist them. By the early 1830s, the tide of the cheap and ready-made trade could be held back no longer. In 1834, the Knights were finally degraded only after a tremendous conflict when 20,000 were said to be on strike under the slogan of equalization. John Wade was still able to speak of the London tailors of 1833 as enjoying a much higher remuneration than is received by the generality of workpeople in the metropolis. Indeed, he cited them as an example of artisans who, by the strength of their combination, had fortified their own interests against the interests of the public and other work people. But when Mayhew commenced his inquiry for the Morning Chronicle in 1849, he cited the tailors as one of the worst examples of cheap and shoddy sweated industry. Of 23,517 London tailors in 1849, Mayhew estimated that 2,748 were independent master tailors. Of the remainder, 3,000 were society men in the honorable trade, as compared to 5,000 or 6,000 in 1821 and 18,000 in the dishonorable trade, were wholly dependent upon large middlemen for their earnings in the slop or ready-made business.